firstly, just purely a passion with the podcast to get the message out that like there is so much you can be doing from a lifestyle perspective to live a more fulfilling, healthier, happier life. We need to be a bit proactive in looking after ourselves better. If you lose your health, everything else is going to fall away as well. So I think that's the thing, like really look after your physical self, reduce your stressors, and then do look what you can do psychologically. So it's about kind of realigning those values and purpose.
I'm glad that we're starting with you in season 2. I'm super pumped for this one, because I know there's lots of entrepreneurs out there, including myself, that get held back. They could be doing so much more, but they're held back by their own beliefs, their own actions on a day-to-day basis, and their own energy levels, which is a big one as you kind of get older and into that midlife
world. So I think we have to be really careful and really discerning, and when you are going to work with someone, not be afraid to ask them the hard questions, like can you demonstrate the success you've had.
Hello and welcome to Founder Stories, the podcast for small business owners. I'm your host, Simon Kalu, and I created this show not only to motivate and inspire, but to give you actionable strategies to take back into your business, shortcutting your route to success. Each week, I'll sit down with real and relatable business owners, uncovering how they've created a business that gives them freedom, creates impact, and makes money. So let's get started. All right, guys, welcome back to season 2 of Founder Stories. We're back with a bang, as always, bringing you relatable, inspirational business owners. Today we have a very special guest, Mr. James Davis. James and his partner Claire run the Midlife Mentors, helping people like me, actually, and possibly you, reclaim control over their bodies, mind, and life. So if you're in midlife or you're coming up to midlife, this one's for you. I think even if you're not, actually, there's going to be so much value in this. For anyone who's a business owner, I would still stick around. I'm super excited for this because I feel like for me, having kids, having a business, 2 football teams now that I manage and more, it's all a bit overwhelming at times. So I'm looking forward to getting some help on a personal level as well. So welcome to the podcast.
Oh, Simon, great to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, just good to have you here, buddy. And I'm glad that we're starting with you in season 2. I'm super pumped for this one. Founder Stories, just for those of you who haven't tuned into season 1, I'll do a quick intro so you know what the podcast is and if it's for you. It's about helping entrepreneurs and business owners really with real life, actionable advice, strategies, tips and stories to inspire you, but not only inspire you. Like I listen to a lot of podcasts that are inspirational, but I go away from them thinking, well, that took 2 hours of my time. It's pumped me up, but I don't really have any actionable steps that I can go away and improve my business or my life. So this is all about being relatable and giving you actionable advice. Hopefully today we can share your story, some lessons, and the viewers or listeners can gain insight from that. And I know one of the reasons why I'm so excited about this one is I know there's lots of entrepreneurs out there, including myself, that get held back. They could be doing so much more, but they're held back by their own beliefs, their own actions on a day-to-day basis, and their own energy levels, which is a big one as you kind of get older and into that midlife. So I'm particularly interested as well in how and hopefully you can tell us a bit about this, how you've managed to master remote working and operate a successful business from multiple countries. So enough of me talking. Let's start with you. I want to start with what kind of triggered you to start this business and get into the world of entrepreneurship?
Well, I guess I'll rewind a bit because my first journey into entrepreneurship was actually 2011. So I trained as a psychologist, did that for a short while, but my passion was writing, so I became a journalist, then moved into the kind of digital media, and then went through a load of corporate jobs, basically all around digital media and emerging platforms, working for big names like The Times, The Sun, MTV. And I loved it, but kind of wasn't ticking all the boxes for me. And the other thing that I really loved was being in shape, being healthy. And I'd spent a lot of time in Ibiza. So I was like, oh, maybe I'll move to Ibiza and run some sort of health business there. Now, I naively made a massive mistake in buying an actual physical gym there that turned out they totally cooked the books on it. So it was a disaster. But it did give me the springboard. I kind of like, how do I pivot from this? So I went to a local 5-star hotel and said, look, I've got this concept. I want to totally reinvent transformational retreats. At the time, the model was kind of like, we'll take you away. There's loads of you in a villa together. We'll feed you beans and rice of 800 calories and just beast you all day long so you lose loads of weight. And as soon as you go home, you put it all back on again. And I was like, listen, I want to put clients in a 5-star hotel where, yes, we've got a healthy menu, but if they all want to go and have a burger and a beer, they can do that as well. And we're going to actually give them, work them out, but also give them workshops on things like limiting beliefs. Why are you holding yourself back? Nutritional principles. So they understand when they go away what they need to be doing. They have a toolkit. So that company was called 38 Degrees North, and it ran really successfully up until 2020 when this thing COVID happened. And so one of the challenges we had with that business was it was very seasonal. So our season would kind of run from Easter till like mid-October, which was great, and we were super busy all through that period. But then we kind of had this fallow winter with obviously low revenues. And we kept saying, we should do more online. Obviously, when COVID came along, we're like, we can't run retreats. We were 85% booked for the year. It was shaping up to be our most successful year yet. Had to refund everyone, don't know when we can do that again. So Claire and I were kind of like, look, we'd already started our podcast, the Midlife Mentors podcast, kind of talking about midlife issues, applying the science of what you could do for your body, your mind. We said, let's develop a program around it. So that's exactly what we did. And that was kind of the birth of Midlife Mentors in 2020, kind of where we are today. So we still have the podcast running. We have this 8-week program we take clients through. We do one-to-one coaching. And then increasingly, we're working with corporates as well, going in and talking to them about issues that impact people in midlife. So we do a lot of work around the menopause, around andropause, which is low testosterone for men, on relationships, communication styles, and particularly at the moment around overwhelm, stress, burnout, and how to safeguard against that and build psychological safety.
I'm interested because, a lot of that relates to me, and I'm sure it relates to viewers or listeners. Just picking out two of the things there. The androgen stuff for males, obviously, it's a big topic, something that I talk about all the time. I just got back from Turkey on a family holiday. And some of my family were kind of asking, you're in great shape, are you doing anything differently? And I'm very open with the fact that I'm on HRT or TRT or whatever you call it. I felt like I had super low energy, couldn't focus, in my 40s, had my testosterone checked. Ideally, it should be kind of 25 to 30, whatever measurement scale that is, and it was 3.
Yeah.
And so that was a bit of a light bulb moment for me, and that's been transformational. But it's a massive thing, I think, that it's almost like people will treat you when you say that like you're cheating at life.
Yeah.
Whereas for females, it's been around for so long that it's more accepted. Was that something that you went through personally, or was it something that you just found through working with your clients could be an issue that was one of the initial fixes you'd look towards?
I was aware of it because I did qualifications in hormone health, and obviously we were looking at estrogen and progesterone cycles around menopause for women, but also looking at testosterone for women and for men. And I guess through the work I do, I've been super aware of the men that come to me and how they're feeling. Exactly the symptoms you're like. It's low energy. They're starting to put on weight, body fat around their midsection. Maybe their muscle mass is decreasing. Libido can dip, disappear. Lack of focus, kind of lack of drive, all these things. And many of those, it's complicated because those could also be due to stress or other factors, but many of those can be directly linked back to testosterone. It's really interesting what you say about TRT. So I think it's amazing the exposure we've had around the menopause in the last 5-6 years. There's been loads of books on it, TV programs, there's massive awareness, loads of corporate initiatives now to help women in the workplace, help people understand it. Fantastic. But we're really lagging behind on men. And we are in a testosterone crisis, right? So just in the Western world, testosterone levels are falling generally. Like a 20-year-old today has lower testosterone levels than an 80-year-old 50 years ago, which is nuts. And there's a lot of reasons for that to do with environmentals, pollutions, lots of arguments of what could be going on there. But specifically when we get to midlife, so for men, our testosterone is our primary sex hormone, right? It's what gives us our drive, our libido, helps us build muscle mass, and it peaks in our late adolescence into our 20s, then it'll decline at a steady rate. So I think one of the issues is, for women, the perimenopause into menopause can happen it happens in quite a compressed time window, that fall off in estrogen and progesterone. Whereas for men, it's this 1 to 2% decline in testosterone year by year. So it doesn't feel like it's nothing noticeable straight away. But actually, if you're compounding that, by the time you're in your 50s, your testosterone levels could be like down to 30% of what they were when you're in your 20s. And obviously that can bring the symptoms. And I think it is really interesting that testosterone still has a bad name. And I think this is where it probably came from the field of kind of sports and bodybuilding, where, the image of it was like, okay, if you want to get the edge in the competition, if you want to put on more muscle, you can take testosterone. And this is why I get this kind of like cheat thing. But we need to realize it is a naturally occurring hormone, and men do need certain levels to be functioning correctly. So I say to any men, and I think it's Simon, I know you're really super healthy and dialed in, right? Because I think one of my fears, what I see at the moment, is TRT is notoriously hard to get on the NHS. So there's more and more private clinics springing up, which is great. But if we look at what's happening in America now, you go in, no matter what your reading is, they're like, yeah, sure, you need, because obviously there's money involved, right? So I'd say to any man considering it is like, yeah, do go and get your testosterone levels checked. Do understand what you're getting from your doctor in terms of, like, it's not about your total testosterone so much, but the free testosterone, because like most of our testosterone is bound to processes in the body. It's the free that matters. And if it is low, do the lifestyle adjustments first, right? Dial back on the alcohol. If you smoke, dial back on the smoking. Start to eat a healthier diet, higher in whole foods. Cut out processed foods. Cut back on sugars. Start to move your body more. Lifting heavy weights regularly will help naturally boost your testosterone levels. Do all these things, and then see whether you need the TRT or not. And if you do, then go for it, because many men find it transformative. But what we don't want to do is, like, with same with HRT, it's not a magic pill, And it's something I say all the time, I'll speak to clients and they're like, oh, but doctors put me on HRT, but I still don't feel great. And I'm like, how much exercise are you doing? None. What's your diet like? Well, I get takeaway 3 times a week and I drink a bottle of wine every other. And you're like, right. You need to look at the other stuff as well. Nothing is a magic pill. And unfortunately, I think in the Western society, we've become so used to these fast fixes. And we only look at what's happening at the moment with the semaglutide drugs for weight loss, Wegovy, Ozempic. And they've got a place for people that are severely obese or diabetic. But we're seeing people that are maybe like half a stone overweight taking it now because it's an easy option. So yeah, my take is we're in a testosterone crisis. The stats for midlife men, it's the highest suicide cohort in the Western world. I think that is related to low testosterone because the impact it can have on a man's psychology and on relationships, obviously. So it's something I'm really passionate about trying to raise the awareness of. And I do go into organisations and talk about low testosterone, but we need to make more of a noise. I think at the moment, the NHS line is very dismissive of it. It doesn't really exist as a condition. It's only low testosterone. Well, if you use that argument about menopause and just went, oh, it's just your low estrogen, it wouldn't fly. So I think we just need to start as men stepping up and as men talking to each other about this kind of stuff as well.
Do you, through, let's say, TMM for the Midlife Mentors, work with women as well? Like, is HRT from the NHS good for women? Or do you think there are some issues with it there that you guys can solve? Like, are there same or similar issues as relates to men relating to women that you see?
Yeah, entirely. So yeah, we do work with women clients as well. And a lot of them are on HRT. But as I said, it's getting them to recognise that HRT in itself is not a fix. There's other things you need to address.
Okay, so the doctor might say to them, okay, yeah, they might say, okay, menopause, go on HRT, but they won't ask them any other questions. So they're not changing their lifestyle. So actually, it's not creating a massive change because it's just one piece. But like you said, their lifestyle, their diet, etc., their rest, their sleep is still poor.
And it can be worse than that, Simon. Like, we hear it from so many female clients that, are in midlife and they go to the doctor and they're like, I'm feeling a bit down, I'm a bit blue in life, just feel low energy. And straight away it's like, here's some antidepressants. Now, listen, I'm not knocking them. They have their place. But actually the doctor should be going, what are your lifestyle factors? What's your age? Shall we get your hormone levels checked and see if maybe that's the issue rather than going straight down the antidepressant route? So that happens a lot, unfortunately. Yeah. I'd say the other thing with HRT, and you'll know from your personal experience with TRT, is it's not that you can take a pill or a gel and that will fix it. Women need to be actually registering what's going on with their cycles and looking at the levels of the estrogen and progesterone and getting those adjusted till they find the right ratio that will suit their HRT. It's not a one-size-fits-all solution.
I think that's super useful. Actually, I just wanted to pick on that because you mentioned it, and for me, it's a big thing. Definitely for entrepreneurs, whether male or female, as you get into that midlife, one of the things that can affect your success, your confidence, your commitment, your consistency, is your energy levels, and your energy levels tend to be impacted by things like that. Just looping back a bit, when you started the business, obviously as the Midlife Mentors, did you, as a couple, I'm just interested in the inception story, did you sit down and think and an idea generate together? How did you decide that you could work together? How did you decide on the concept, the brand, the idea that you were going to package it up in an 8-week program primarily? And is that still what you provide, or is it more of a longer term membership? I know there's about 5 questions there, but if we start with how did you come up with the idea, and how did you, because I love my wife, but I couldn't work with her. Yeah. It would be a nightmare. So how did you work out that you could work together, and how did you come up with the concept and then turn that into an actual real business?
Yeah, great question. I mean, it's one we get asked a lot, because I think it's still fairly uncommon to have a husband and wife working together in the same business. I'll be honest, we started working together in the retreats business, and we had I'd say a really steep learning curve about our individual styles. But I think over time, because we do love and respect each other, we worked out what those styles were and how they could complement each other, who was better at certain roles, who was better at others, and kind of divided the workload around that. When it came to the Midlife Mentors, the inspiration for that was kind of, we were obviously hitting that age ourselves and seeing a lot of clients coming through the retreat route that were that, and the similar things were presenting over and over. But it was actually a bit more personal. It was friends just going, well, this is just it. I just got to put up with like expanding waistline, low energy. That's pretty much it. And I was just like, no, it doesn't. So it was firstly just purely a passion with the podcast to get the message out that like there is so much you can be doing from a lifestyle perspective to live a more fulfilling, healthier, happier life. When we came to the program, we sat down together and we were like, oh, okay, what are the elements we want to have in this? Like, it's not, people will lose weight on it because that's important for people, but it's not a weight loss program. We want to be really clear about that, because we're coming to this. Claire's background is like stress management and life coaching. So it came back to the big things that I think are often ignored in these kind of programs, which is like, what are your limiting beliefs? And we're like, how are we going to do that? What limiting beliefs? Where are you holding back? What are your values? What's your purpose? Because a really common thing at midlife is people have gone so far in their life and they're suddenly like, oh, I'm not sure if this is actually even what I wanted. Now I'm here, or it just feels a bit empty. So it's about kind of realigning those values and purpose. So we spent a lot of time thinking about what could go into that. We ran a beta with a limited number of people, got their feedback, adjusted it. And then obviously as we've run it since 2020, we've continued to like adjust it and improve it. And we still offer it as an 8-week program. But interestingly, like we now offer like a 6-month membership with the 8 weeks, like an intensive. And then you're following on with like every week we've got group coaching calls and more things that we do with people. Because it's that longer journey to really help them make really impactful changes for the long term, I think, in their life.
Do you do in person still? Do you, obviously you stopped the retreats because of COVID, and then the idea generation for the Midlife Mentors came on, and that can be delivered to you can impact and help more people because you can do things virtually. But it is nice, like my wife and I were saying, okay, we're going to Ibiza for her 40th. We just got back from Turkey.
Ooh, exciting.
It's not going to be, but it's not going to be very healthy. It's, going to the clubs. We're still just about young enough to get into these clubs. We can dance around, have fun, have a few drinks, etc. But we're staying there for another 2 or 3 days after all our friends go home. And we were saying, well, it'd be quite nice to do a 2 or 3 day just somewhere where you get up, have juices, have massages, do meditation, go and read, get involved in group discussions, all of those kind of things. Do you still do in person? Is that something that you're going to bring back, or is it all virtually online now?
So now we do a couple of retreats a year. So we do a couple of long weekends, normally one in the spring and one in the autumn, in either Ibiza or Marbella. And they'll be exactly as you're describing there. It's really immersive. So we keep the group really small, like maximum 8 clients, and then obviously Claire and I. So it's really personal and intimate. And it's kind of like living with us for 4 days, right? And we just do everything to it with loads of workouts, loads of workshops, group discussions, healthy food, and they're really nice. But I think Claire and I have been talking about this recently, like going, oh, yeah, what we really miss the in-person stuff. So we are looking for other ways we could do more in-person, whether what that looks like, whether it's a 1 day or half-day event somewhere or more retreats. We're not sure yet, but I think that the passion, the desire is definitely there to bring back more in-person.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting because we work with Tony Robbins, do the business mastery events, and in COVID they all went to virtual, but they're coming back now to hybrid. So certain people go to his house basically in Palm Springs or around there. Then it's moving to an event venue. The capacity is now back up to about 1,000. It was higher before, but it's a hybrid event, so people will dial in virtually and people will pay a higher ticket price to go in person. The ones that can afford it, but also the ones that get more out of that human connection. What did you do at the start to gain momentum? I think people are always interested in knowing, okay, you've got this concept, you've got this brand, you know who your ideal client is. Was it, like you said, just a case of helping friends and family, doing a great job and getting recommendations? Did you set up ads to gain clients? Like, how did you get traction for your business?
Yeah, another great question. So I think we were lucky. We had the existing retreats business, which obviously was around health and wellness. So we were legitimately able to use that database, which was large, to kind of go, this is something new we're launching through COVID. The other thing we did in COVID when it came, because I remember the first lockdown I think was just coming into Easter, and that was going to be our first retreat in Ibiza, and we're kind of like, oh, bummer. And they said, like, you know what should we do? Should we run a virtual retreat? So we actually organised this virtual retreat. We just literally put posts up, sent emails out, said, right, it's going to be free. You can donate to these charities if you want. And we got other experts in, and we kind of like going down to Primrose Hill and doing like a live workout, doing workshops on a laptop. And we did a few of those all through lockdown, and it got us in the press. So that helped build the following as well. In terms of how we built it, leverage that initial database. I think just posting. We've always been organic. We've never really done ads. Still haven't done ads, but I do think we're going to have to, because I think there's a couple of things going on. Someone, you referenced it earlier. I think people's appetite for virtual has really dropped off. I think there's much more desire to do in-person or a hybrid model now. So I think there's just so much Zoom fatigue that people just like, oh, not another thing where I've got to sit in front of the computer. And secondly, I think we know that algorithms on social media just very organic now, completely, and you'll see this. You'll see someone that's got a following of like tens of thousands, but then they've got like 20 comments on a post, even if it's an amazing post, because it's just not getting shown to people. So I think ads is something we're looking at for the future for sure, but we built it all organically, word of mouth, referrals, and that's how we got into our corporate work as well, working with people like Citibank, KPMG. It all came through clients referring us to people, and
and I think that corporate angle is great because you want a business that makes money, but you want to have your own freedom. But for me, it's all about legacy, and that's how many people can we impact. Now if you go and run the in-persons with 8 people, that's great because you can immerse them and make an instant change. But if you go into KPMG and ran an event with 500 people in the room, and they all have something impactful that they take away, it's just leverage, isn't it? And you ultimately, I know you want to help people. That's your primary motivation, not how can I make as much money as possible. Yeah,
it's true. So I think that's corporate something we're definitely looking at. 'Cause it's like you're saying, you get in those big corporates like KPMG, Citibank. I did stuff where there was like 2,000 people dialed into it. So you're impacting a lot of people.
Wow.
And you're leveraging someone else's.
That must be so rewarding as well.
It's amazing when you see the numbers just going as the people come on. You're like, wow, this is great.
I've never had anything like that. I think I had about 13 people turn up to my last webinar. But even then, I had this thing a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago, when I took the family. We went to Wembley for the Capital FM Ball. It's like a 10-hour music concert, but it's good for kids. Wow. And on the way back, someone shouted, "Simon!" And I turned around and I realised that they'd realised. They shouted Simon, but I had no idea who they were. And he said, "Look, I follow you on Instagram. You've really helped me. I listen to your posts. It's helped me in this kind of way." And just even on an individual basis, if you can put content out and it helps someone, I was buzzing for the next 24 hours. It's just rewarding. I think if your primary motivation is to help people and have an impact, then the money follows, and then obviously you have your own processes in place to make sure that you maintain your freedom, which is an easy one to lose.
Yes.
Do you think, 50% of businesses fail in the first year? How long have you been running your business?
We launched
I guess if you
in
include the
2020,
retreats.
so we include retreats since 2012. We formed the company to do the retreats. So what's that? 12
So you've
years.
been an entrepreneur. Yeah, I mean, 96% of businesses fail over 10 years, and you're 12 years in.
Phew.
So I think it's a really interesting question to try and understand and unpick what makes you part of the 4% and not the 96%. Do you think it's natural talent for you in terms of your entrepreneurship and the skills and tools that you have to run your business? Or have you done your own learning and self-development throughout the process? You're not born as a business owner. You don't know how to do legals, finance, all the other things that you have to do. You're just good at the bit that you do. So how have you managed to kind of... And Tony Robbins uses this analogy of business is a bit like being a gladiator. The longer you stay in the ring, the more likely you are to die. And they just keep sending things in to kill you.
Yes.
So
feels
how
like
have
that
you
sometimes.
managed to it does, yeah. But it gets easier and you start to learn. But how have you dealt with that? How have you been around for so long?
Yeah, I mean, I think coming from a corporate background into being an entrepreneur, I think was quite a rude awakening, because if you've been in a corporate environment, you've got departments and people you can you can say, oh, yeah, can I get this done? Can I get that done? Suddenly you're on your own, and you're, like you say, you're running everything. You're running the marketing, the PR, the account. It's like, wow. So it can be quite overwhelming. And I certainly made a lot of mistakes. In terms of why we're still around, I think it's been a couple of things. I think one thing is keeping an eye on the market and just being aware, not necessarily being led, not watching competitors see what they're doing, but kind of like picking up on the trends in the market and what's happening and going, okay, well, how can we improve our experience? What are consumers looking for? What do they want? And how can we match that? So being aware of that, I think evolving as the market evolves is one thing. I think the other thing...
So that would be... sorry to butt in.
That's all right.
That would be a form of strategic innovation, right? Have you ever read the book Blue Ocean Strategy?
Yes,
yeah,
I love that book.
I think that's really important. And lots of people have not read that. So just the fact that you've read that book shows that you separate yourself from other people, which says you have to constantly, at least once a year, run that Blue Ocean strategy process and look at, are you actually innovating? Are you differentiating yourself from your competition? And if you do that, then you're almost restarting your business every year, right?
Yeah. I mean, listen, I think there's some products out there that never innovate because they're just classics. Like I saw one, the Bic Biro pen, like that was, I don't know, the first one came out in and it's never changed, right? Because they don't need to. Everyone knows what it is, it works. But I think if you're in a service-based industry,
Fair point.
Particularly, then you do need to continually innovate. And it's like, even to the point of like, not just what you're offering, but how are you connecting with your customers and potential customers? Where are they hanging out? Because that shifts and changes over time as well. What's the best way to reach them? What's the language they're using? What are their aspirations? You've got to be hyper aware of that. And I think the other thing is just being stubborn / consistent and disciplined. It can be really easy when things are going well, just be like, this is great, take your foot off the gas and go, we just don't need to do anything now, which is surely going to lead to disaster. At the other extreme, it can be like when things are going badly, you can struggle to see a way ahead and you might just be like, oh, you can get this paralysis almost. But at those times, I think it's important to not be rash, take a deep breath, evaluate what's going on, and then go, okay, what's a possible course of action that we can take, and just execute on that and keep executing and tweaking as you get feedback till you start to get the result you want. And I think it's about being obstinate. I think business is hard. I think it's particularly hard at the moment. I do think we're in a tough business environment at the moment, but I think people that can innovate and are willing to stick it out and listen to consumers will be the ones that come through.
Yeah, 100%. Totally agree. I think people are much more price sensitive, so they have to see the ROI, the return on investment of anything they do, even if it's investing in themselves.
Totally.
That's the biggest thing that I've seen. They're constantly questioning the value, so they want to see a measurable return. Yeah. Whether it's qualitative or quantitative, you have to show them what you're doing for the hard-earned money that they're giving you. I mean, you should be willing to do that at any point. It's just 10 years ago it was easier to take people's money and give them a good service, and there would be an element of trust rather than measurement of the return. We see that, our clients see that. I think it's really what you spoke about is I know it sounds so simple, but if you're listening or you're watching this, please ask yourself whether you are being consistent or whether you're doing something for a month, like running a webinar or posting to Instagram or emailing or whatever, and because you don't see results, you stop and move on to the next thing. This is the biggest thing that I found. Like literally 10 and a half years into running my business, I was on holiday and I had this light bulb moment. Simon, if you'd have just concentrated on 3 core things and just done them consistently for the last 10 years, your business will probably be 10 times the size and you'd be impacting 10 times as many people. But I personally have this thing where I'll run something for a month and obviously I won't see results, and so I'll stop it and move on to the next thing, and so on and so on and so on. So that's just so massive. Did you seek out, have you been on any good courses that you'd recommend? Did you seek out a business coach or a mentor? Have you got help from someone else, or have you just done your own learning?
No, we've had coaches along the way. Some have been great, some have been awful, and some have been in between. But I think I always think when you pay for knowledge, I call it paying the ignorance tax, right? You don't know what you don't know, and sometimes you're like, okay, I want to get from A to B. I don't know how to do it. I can spend some time and money working it out on my own, but it's going to be a long time, probably less money, or I can pay someone that's done it to learn from them fast. And so I think we've always had that. It's like, okay, what are they doing that's working? Let's ask them how they're doing out and getting coaches that can support and work with that. And I think, again, you've got to be so careful because it is, smoke and mirrors, Simon. I've sat on discussions with coaches, and there's been people on there and they're like, yeah, I have the six-figure system for coaches to scale and it's amazing. And then they'll be like, yeah, but the problem is I've just got no clients at the moment and no money coming in. And you're like, what? Like, you're selling the system to other coaches? But there's so much of that. There's so much of that, as you'll know, in the online world. So I think we have to be really careful and really discerning. And when you are going to work with someone, not be afraid to ask them the hard questions, like, can you demonstrate the success you've had? But I think mentoring is so vital in any area of life. And it's not just business, like Claire and I will have personal coaches, we'll go to therapy, anything that we think will continue our growth and, I guess, give us an edge, we'll do it. We're investing in ourselves all the time.
Yeah, I always use the analogy of my kids playing football. I take them. My son got into Aston Villa on a trial. He had 2 trials and then they released him. But just to be invited in was just massive opportunity. And they go to 5 different things a week. I mean, I am the coach on 2 of them, so I am their mentor. However, we pay for different one-to-one sessions because there are certain things that I can't teach them. I never played football at school, I played rugby. You never get the kid and say, okay, just go and learn. I mean, there's another school of thought, like a Messi or a Ronaldo didn't have coaching, they were just naturally talented, but the reality is that's not true. They had a coach at 6, 7, 8, 9 who let them be creative and do their own thing, however was just tweaking and saying, why don't you just change this, and just keeping them on course to fulfill their potential. Super important. So is there anything that happened, when you were in a good corporate job, getting paid well, nice security? Lots of our listeners aren't actually running businesses they want to, but they're scared to make that step. Did you do anything that you'd recommend? Like build up, I was speaking to someone yesterday that basically built up a £4 million property portfolio while they've been working, in order that they can then quit their job and start their business, and they've got enough money coming. The property is highly leveraged, so 4 million sounds great, but the income might be 10,000 a month profit, but that's enough. Then they can quit their job and go and do something. Did you do that, or did you just quit and then take the risk and then, I won't swear, get very scared and force yourself through pressure to perform?
Yeah, a bit like the last one. No, we obviously had saved some money to invest in the business. And I'd say anyone who's thinking of making the jump, you know, I'd say make sure you have got a financial nest egg behind you, whether that's, you know, money in the bank, property portfolio, but you've got money available. Because the thing I think with the entrepreneurial journey, you'll always need more money than you thought. You know, you can do all your budgets and your planning, but then you're like down the road, you're like, wow, I need a bit more here. What am I going to do? Unless you want to then start going to the banks and raising finance, which is a whole nother conversation. You know, like we've always been self funded, and I think that does put a pressure on you of continually performing. But I think it's quite a healthy pressure to keep things going rather than, you know, knowing you've got something to fall back on.
Yeah, pressure is a privilege, right?
Yeah.
And you need a bit, but I guess you know I know you know way more about what is an optimum level of pressure and when it turns into toxic stress. I just bought, have you ever heard of Gabor Mate? I'm probably not saying his name right.
Yeah, Gabor Mate,
It might even be a woman, actually.
There's a guy,
I just bought a five book pack up here.
Fantastic.
Because someone highly recommended it. Plus a few other books that they recommended to start thinking about actually reduction of stress levels and not just go all the time. For you, is there an element of you taking your own advice and learning as you go along? Like, what was your routine in the first few years of setting up the business? Were you straight into, I'm going to have a good, healthy relationship with work? Or were you just working all the time to get things off the ground?
That's great. That's a great question. I think I've always prioritized my physical health. So I was very aware of always making time for that. And that does also pay dividends for your mental health as well, I find. And I'm sure you're the same, you know, getting that space to like work 100%. Out, work your body, mind-body connection. But the nature of what we did, I think the first few years, it was just full on. It was like all hours. And I think as well, unless you've done your planning carefully and not made any mistakes, I think that can be the nature of the beast when you're setting a business up. Once we were up and running with the retreats, it became a bit more like, okay, well, when retreats are on, it's full on, you know, during that week when you're with people. But then you'll have like a few days rest, you take it easy. We used to find time, you know, to go, right, let's just go to the sister island of Ibiza, Formentera for a couple of days, chill out, come back and do it again. So we started to get that work-life balance more adjusted. But the first few years were definitely like, woof, no work-life balance. It was brutal.
Yeah, which I think is fine. You know, to a certain extent, you've got to accept that people sometimes quit their jobs thinking that they're going to work less than they are in their corporate job, where they might be working 30, 40 hours a week, 50 hours a week. Just hardly ever the reality. And then I think it's about putting systems in place, hiring a team, creating leverage so you can slowly drive down your time and drive up your freedom. But one interesting thing that we do as well, I haven't done it for a while actually, but it seems like you were doing then, is preloading your year. So kind of booking out the retreats, but then almost blocking out your calendar for some deload time. Is that something that you've tried to do? Kind of protect your time and block your calendar out almost a year in advance with breaks, holidays, and kind of space for yourself?
Yeah, when we were doing the retreats, definitely, because we have our contracts with the hotels we're working with, so we knew when that was happening, and also when we weren't running them. So we were like, okay, well, we've got a fallow period there. What should we do for R&R? I think now it's more on a rolling basis with the online business. But we'll kind of get to the point where it's like, okay, I can feel that we need a break. So, like for example, tomorrow we're going to the Suffolk countryside to stay in a shepherd's hut with no electricity for 2 nights, and just getting those decompressions in are really important, you know. And this comes back to this thing of stress and overwhelm, right? We have this bell curve for stress. You know, down here at the bottom is when we're understimulated and we can feel like bored, lethargic. You know, nothing's going on. Then we start to get the stress building up, reach the top, and that's like we're optimum performance. Everything's switched on. We're getting the cortisol, the adrenaline firing, super focused. But if we carry on that, remember, the stress response is designed, it's fight or flight, it's survival. It's not meant to be a prolonged thing. And this is where people go wrong. They think, if I just stay at this capacity all the time, I'll get more done. But once we go over, our performance starts to degrade, and that degradation starts to accelerate. So we get to that back down here, which is, you know, the burnout. It's very similar to being understimulated. It's like lethargic, lack of motivation, even though you've got stuff to do and you're feeling like, yeah, you've got the negative effects of stress still, like high blood pressure, heart rate, but you've lost the urge. So I think everyone needs to be really aware of that and start building in their recovery time. And I think what's really interesting is, there's a theory from the Gestalt school of psychology called the cycle of experience, that, we get the stimulation, we move towards action, we do the action, then we kind of evaluate the action, but then we're meant to go through these other stages, which is like, then we withdraw, then we relax, then we sit in a while what they call the fertile void at the bottom, which is when we become creative again, and then we move back up to the next stimulus, next action. But I think in modern life, most people are like stimulus, movement, action, completion, stimulus, movement, action, completion. We're never going through the withdraw, recover, fertile void, and back. And over time, that's going to take a physical, mental, and emotional toll on you.
Is that when people try to stay at the top of that bell curve by using nicotine, caffeine, other drugs that might be available to concentrate because they want to stay in that zone of productivity?
It can be. So things like caffeine and nicotine can help your concentration, but they'll only exacerbate the negative effects of stress over the medium to long term. If you're talking about the other drugs like drink and alcohol, they're not really going to help you perform at that level. My personal view is, humans are addicted to dopamine, and sometimes when we're bored, so we're at the bottom here, or when we're really stressed, what we want to do is, it's like a safety valve. We want to switch out. So it's almost, what's a distraction I can go to that's going to take me away from what I'm feeling at the moment. Most of us can't sit with our emotions, and that emotion could be just something that's unpleasant. It could be that you're stressed, but in that moment when you're stressed, you're like, oh, right, I'm going to get on my phone and just scroll through the online shopping, or just go through the feed and look at pictures of kittens, or it'd be like, I'm going to go and get that bottle of wine, or,
Well, people might have other really destructive habits that they go towards that they know they shouldn't be doing.
Exactly.
But actually,
and they
it's
turn
just
to be
getting
a distraction.
them out of their current state.
Yeah, exactly that. It's state shifting.
And then I guess that is a vicious cycle. So how, if people are in that, so whether they're getting to it and they're going on social media, or they're drinking alcohol, or they're, I don't know what they might be doing. I don't know, whatever, some other destructive habits.
Yeah.
Taking drugs, whatever it is. How do you get out of that? Because it must be so difficult. I mean, I know myself, it's really difficult to get out of drinking caffeine, or, I don't know, let's say drinking caffeine and leave it there for the podcast. How do you get out of that?
Yeah.
How do you, if you're not very connected to yourself, would it be better to just diarise these breaks so I work in 4-month sprints basically with my mentor. I'm in a group coaching program. So I go to America 3 times a year, meet with other accountants in America, strategize, set the plan, review the results, have some accountability, do some learning. And then, so I'll work for 3 months, then I'll deload for 2 weeks, then I'll reset goals for 2 weeks, and then I'll go again and try to book a holiday every 3 months, whether it's UK or abroad, to totally be away from work.
Yeah.
But sometimes even in the middle of that 3-month window, if it's been really hectic, I can feel that I'm getting to my limit.
Yeah.
Like, can everyone get themselves, is the work that you do with your clients helping people to get more in touch with themselves so they recognise when they need to step back?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think first up, Simon, congrats on getting that in. That sounds like a great cadence, and it sounds like it works for you broadly. So that's great. But I think everyone's going to have challenges, right? We'll always think, okay, this 3-month block's going to be fine, but then stuff can come up that adds to our stress, and it can be stuff we can predict, or just stuff that happens in life that suddenly is like, I think in terms of dealing with it, if you're getting to this point where you're like, I'm going to go for the distraction, it's bringing awareness to it, being aware, like, before you go into that behavior, going, okay, why am I going that behavior? What is the thing? I always feel science, like, what's the thing you're running from? What's the fear behind it? Because there will always be a fear behind it. And the fear might just be like, I can't cope with this stress. I need to escape it momentarily. I can't deal with these emotions. I need to escape it. Or I fear that it can go deeper. You can have a fear of success. If I carry on like this, I can see I actually succeed, but I've actually got a fear of success because that could mean bad things will happen to me. So I'm going to self-sabotage it. There can be lots of reasons, but I think it's about understanding before you go to that behavior, why am I going to it? Ask yourself, what's the fear behind it? And have the courage to actually look at that fear and like, what do I want to work on that rather than going into the behavior? And then the other thing you can do is, I'm a big fan of like vice swapping. So, if you were going to, smash it on an evening of drugs, maybe, like what could you do that might not be quite as harmful for you instead? Could you go for a weekend away where you're really active or something? Because all you're looking for, right, all the time as humans, we're looking for the dopamine hit. So anything that creates that dopamine, that'd be any new experience, right? So most drugs and alcohol work by every time when you have your first sip of a nice cold pint, or it's like boom, dopamine hit. Oh, I feel great.
Yeah.
But we get the same thing from new experiences, like jumping off a cliff into a sparkling sea or whatever. So it's just finding like what can I replace this with that could be more helpful to me, less derailing for me. Because I think we can all recognise some behaviours are more derailing than others.
Yeah, and I think that's super helpful. I'm sure that everyone listening, if they're an entrepreneur, has reached a level of stress in their business where they do have something they go towards to get out of that is destructive. And so I think that's got to be super helpful. It's definitely helpful for me. You're married now. What changed? What changed from? Were you together and married when you quit your corporate job and started the business?
No, so I was actually married before someone. So I set up the business with my first wife, and actually, I'd say the pressures of the business led to us splitting quite suddenly. And then my current wife, we knew each other, but it's a weird story. We kind of knew each other as friends. But we found out about 3 months after we'd separated that she separated from her husband as well at pretty much exactly the same time that I'd separated, completely unknown to me. And so I was like, "Oh, are you going to come to Ibiza?" And she did. And then we tried to date, and it was all a bit of a disaster for about a year because I think we were still trying to sort through a lot of our own trauma and baggage. And then we got together, and then things just moved really, really fast. We're like, okay, yeah, we want to do this.
And did anything change with your business, or you had that period in between where it's just you, so you can focus on your own business, you can focus on you can focus on your routine. What do you do now, I guess, to have balance while you're still growing your business but have time for each other?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think one of the challenges when you're working together, particularly when you're in the online space, you're working from home, so it's like you're in the same space for everything. So things we try and do is be quite strict about when we're switching off from work. Like this is the working day is over, or this is when we're taking a break, taking these regular breaks, and also taking time for ourselves as well. It's just that could be I just need a few hours off to go and do something else, or Claire might, or even might be one of us might go for a few days away just to kind of like reset and recalibrate. But I think respecting each other's space and being mindful, like you don't want to let work seep into the relationship too much, and that's a constant battle. But setting clear boundaries around it and going, that's work done. We're not going to talk about it. Remembering to do things like go on regular date nights and all the rest of it. That all really helps.
Yeah, I think that's helpful because I do it for a while with my wife. The regular date nights, we diarise that and all of that stuff. But it's very, very easy, especially with the kids that we've got at their ages 9 and 8, doing all their different activities and loads of stuff going on, to kind of let that go by the wayside. But the fact that I put it in the calendar reminds me. Yeah. So at some point, because I'm getting these reminders every week for connection time, every month to go on a day date, every 3 months to go on an overnight stay, once a year go away together as a couple, all of these things that you come back to it. It's not like you leave it forever. You come back to it because you've got these reminders. That's really helped me.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So let's talk a bit about now. What do you do to optimize your own mental and physical performance? What sports do you do? We haven't spoken about this before, actually. Obviously, I like to aimlessly lift weights and look at myself in the mirror. But what do you like to do?
So, like you, I like to lift weights. So I hit the gym like 4 times a week to lift weights. I'll do like a short hit session a couple of times a week, and then I'll do kind of 5K run kind of every other week as well. And I find running for me is like I'm not worried about my times. It's like my meditative space. I can't sit. Meditation's great, by the way, if anyone is listening, but I just can't sit still and meditate. But when I run, I can really get into that headspace with it. It's like my moving meditation, I guess. So that's what I do from a physical perspective. Also, make sure that I'm eating well, have a healthy diet. But as I say to my clients, it's also life's to be enjoyed, right? So I'll do the 80-20 rule. It's like, I'll eat well 80% of the time, but, the weekends, just, I don't worry about it. I don't sweat it. If I'm like, I'm going to eat that thing, I just eat it. Don't worry. So, and I find that works quite well. I'm very conscious of working on my mental health. So, I will see, if I feel I need it, I'll see a coach or a therapist and have sessions to talk about anything that's coming up for me. But I also do my own work. I do a lot of journaling. I'm a big fan of doing things around gratitude work. Because the thing is, I think it's very easy in the modern world to fall into like an anxiety state. But actually, gratitude and anxiety are opposing states. You can't be both grateful and anxious. So, top tip for anyone, if you ever got anxiety rising up, just pause, go down and go, what am I grateful for in my life? What are 3 great things that happened to me yesterday? It doesn't have to be that you won the lottery. It could be, the sun was shining and I had a lovely walk and I saw a beautiful bird fly by. Small things. And when we can actually let ourselves experience that feeling of gratitude, it will push the anxiety away. So that's something I work on a lot.
Yeah, I think for me as well, that's been so helpful. I need to get back to doing it more regularly. I have a journal that I write in. The productivity planner it's called, and it has got a prompt I am grateful for and what is my intention for the day right at the start before you write your action list. But if I look back on the last 7 days, that bit's blank and the rest of the to-dos are filled out.
Right. Okay.
I find with me, I don't know whether you think this is something that people do a lot who are successful entrepreneurs. I'll have a business that, let's say we turn over £2 million this year. Because I set a target that I wanted to turn over 2.5 and we turned over, say, 1.8 last year, I'm just making the numbers up, and I didn't hit my target, I'll be walking around beating myself up, feeling really depressed, feeling a lot of stress and anxiety. But when I look at actually what's the reality of it, I'm earning more than enough to pay my mortgage, go on holiday 4 times a year, put my kids into private school, drive nice cars, and have some money in the bank. So why am I putting all this pressure on myself? But I haven't found a mechanism yet to stop that. Because like we said, you have to put a bit of pressure on yourself. Because I've also been in the situation where I felt, I'm doing great now. I hit £1 million in my business. I bought golf clubs. I went golfing every Friday. I just took my foot off the gas.
Yeah.
And that really caused a lot of problems. So it's how do you recommend for people that they find a balance where they are pushing forward, but they're not beating themselves up for not hitting these notional targets?
Again, a great question. Listen, I think if you're an entrepreneur, a part of that is being driven, right? Else you wouldn't be an entrepreneur. And a part of that is setting targets. And I used to be terrible for this. I'd be like, that year was really good with the treats. So if we add a few more and we get more, but then it's suddenly like you've got this like great number. And then you're staring at it like every month going, come on, I've got to get more. And I realised I was kind of falling into this trap. I was like, actually, do you know what? my life's pretty good. We're living a pretty good life with this. Like, why am I beating myself up? And I think it is a symptom of modern society that we're very much driven. We kind of conflate happiness with achievement. So we're very much when I get this thing or when this thing happens, then I'll be happy. But when we do that, all we're doing is delaying the happiness and making sure we're never happy. Because even when we get to that thing, right, you hit your 2.5 million, you're kind of like, yay, I'm happy. But straight away, you're thinking, I wonder if I could do 3 million. So that happiness is gone. So I think it's finding a balance going, like, first of all, this is what my big learning was, is my target realistic? It's good to have really ballsy targets, but maybe just check in with, like, am I going to destroy myself trying to get there? What's a reasonable target that is a stretch that I'm going to work hard for to get me there? But what else have I got going on? What are my non-financial targets? What are my non-business targets? What are my goals in life that light me up? Like where do I want to go on holiday? What are the things what are the experiences I want to have? Because then you're taking your goal setting from being purely about business and numbers to around other things around the quality of life as a whole.
I think that's massive, that point, actually. When you goal set, and I don't do this, but I'm going to reset my goals with a reference to what's going on. Also, guys, if you're listening and you've got some issues in your business right now, like we had 2 key people leave last year, and that was one of the main reasons why we decided, okay, look, let's not push on new client acquisition. Let's make sure the clients we've got are served well. Let's recruit and rehire some really great people. And let's just steady the ship. You know, and on this podcast, I'm not coming on here trying to pretend that I've got all the answers. And like you said, one of these business coaches that sells you this big system and this dream that you're doing everything right. You know, we're 13 years in and we still had a year last year that was really difficult. Yeah. But what I didn't do is turn around and go, okay, well, it's not 2.5 anymore. It's 2. Or actually, do you know what? It's just going to stay at 1.8 because of all these other factors. And if I don't push the target, it will still give me time to go away with my family, be it every one of my kids' sporting things with school, which are literally every day, by the way. Yeah, it was great sending them to a sporting achievement private school until you find out that they have a cricket fixture on a Monday, a rugby fixture on a Tuesday, a football fixture on a Wednesday, hockey fixture on a Thursday. So you can basically work from 9 till kind of 2 and then you're going to watch them play football. But that's the beauty of life, you know, to be there for those moments. So I think what you said about that, just referencing, is the goal realistic, and also what are some of my non-business goals, and do they actually conflict with this notional number goal that I'm setting? Is really good. And for me, I found certain people that I watch on YouTube now that are going through a change in their own journey that have been inspirational, like the person I watched who recommended the Gabor Mate books. You know, talking about, actually, I also read 4,000 Weeks. Not sure if you've read that book.
Funnily enough, someone just recommended that to Claire, so we just ordered it, actually.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Really good. And it just talks about the finite nature of life, and you're spending all your time sat in front of a computer screen trying to make more money. But actually, when you start to think about life as a bit more of a finite thing, you start to pencil in and plan in experiences and adventures and family time and all the things that kind of matter. You know, we all know that the reality of business is not a license to print money. I imagine that you are spending a lot of what you make reinvesting in systems, processes, your own learning, just so you can constantly, like you said, deliver a better service to clients, understand your clients and those things. So how important has it been for you to keep an eye on numbers, margins, cash flow? I'd imagine that's been something that you've been onto in order to survive this long.
Yeah, really, really, really important. And again, it's a steep learning curve. You know, I feel fortunate because my last few corporate jobs were senior, where I had budgetary responsibility, you know, into the millions. So I had to be running budgets and tracking them and presenting at board level. So I was down with the spreadsheets. I still hate spreadsheets, but I was down with spreadsheets. So I could when I was doing my own business, I could be like, right, going to make the spreadsheet, going to track everything. And I think it's so important. Otherwise, you know, you don't know where you are from day to day. And you can see, like, you know, I sit down every month and go through my bank statements and fill out a spreadsheet of everything that's gone out. I'm seeing, like, okay, where's the money going? Because it helps give you that picture of what's going on in the business as a whole. And I think it's so important. And again, I don't know, but I have seen entrepreneurs that just kind of like fly by the seat of their pants. And I think you can get by so far, but if you haven't got the systems in place, if you're not tracking stuff, then you're probably likely to become a cropper at some point.
Yeah, I mean, I see basically people in 3 camps. One is they either stockpile money because they don't have any financial systems in place. All they do is look at their bank statement. So the way that they reduce risk is just by holding really large levels of cash. Mm-hmm. The other one's constantly spending money with no reference to whether they can afford things or not. So they're constantly running around chasing their tails. And the others have some sort of system, whether it's just multiple bank accounts and you only spend money when there's money in those bank accounts, like the holidays bank account for personal stuff. You only spend money if there's money in the account. That's called the profit first system. Or you have an online accounting software like Xero linked to a cash flow tool like Float, and you run a live cash flow forecast, which every week, ideally, you go in and say, oh, okay, I've now got 30 people sign up for my retreat, or I've got 57 people on the long-term mastermind, or whatever it is. Automatically updates your income. You check all your costs are still relevant because it's automatically populating them, or you might put in, do you know what, we've got a reinvestment in this software here or these systems or whatever, and it plots your cash flow for you online. And if you do that, that's obviously the optimal way, because then you can make spending decisions and be efficient with your cash. But people tend to be in the other 2 camps, which is either chasing their tail, or I met someone who kind of they live in Dubai. They worked with us because they wanted to actually start to get a handle on their numbers and understand their numbers. They had almost £1 million in the bank.
Oh, wow.
Because They were just too scared to spend the money because you're in Dubai and you don't have to pay taxes. You don't really need to have an accounting system. So they had no accounting system. They just had the bank statements. They had no real understanding of what their profit margins were, whether they were making money or whatever, what was coming down the road. So they would just stockpiling cash, which is incredible to me. But we've set all those things up for them now. So we spoke about this. I'm just looking through my notes to make sure we covered some of my key questions. How do you attract new clients? Do a good job, I think. You had the initial list that you've been working with. That builds all the time, obviously. Do you build your list because do you offer a free training, or are there any ways that people, if someone wanted to learn more about the Midlife Mentors, some of the things we've spoken about kind of triggered them? What's a way that they could get some help or find out more? Where should they go?
Yeah, so our website's always a good stop off as a first port of call, themidlifementors.com. And on there you'll find like a number of free resources. So we've got a midlife audit you can take, which kind of tell you, if you're understanding really what's going on in terms of things like your hormones, your movement, your nutrition, even your beliefs, your values. So that's a really useful tool just to kind of see where there might be gaps that you can work on. We've got like a little ebook you can download. And then the other thing is our podcast, the Midlife Mentors podcast, which is we talk about all the things we've referenced today. So they're really good jumping in points, I think for people. And of course, if you want to get in touch, then just reach out to me, James, at themidlifementors.com.
I think that's great. The audit, I think, is such a powerful tool. I really want to set that up for us as well, because people might not need our help. They might tick all the boxes, and do you know what? They might be a 9 out of 10. And you're like, okay, I've given you reinforcement. Your diet's on point, your sleep's on point, your hormone levels are getting checked every month. You're meditating, you're doing a journal, you're grateful, you rank your happiness at 9.5 out of 10. I mean, I'm sure this never happens. I'm sure there's an area. But it's a way that people for free can actually identify, in your perspective, from a personal perspective, whether there are areas that they're weak on and certain things are strong. I always talk about, from a business perspective, thinking about a business like spokes of a wheel on a bicycle. So you want, really, you'd be better off having all sixes in all of your key areas: marketing, legal, finance. Tony Robbins talks about the 7 forces of business mastery. So let's say there's 7 spokes. But if you've got 1 spoke, which is most people, or 2 spokes that are 9s or 10s, and the rest are 2s or 3s because you don't focus on them, you're not going to get very far in life. On your bicycle, you're probably going to fall off. Yeah, so the audit, I think, genuinely is a really nice tool to look at. What does your wheel look like? If you think about it as a wheel, what are the areas of your life? With your model in the Midlife Mentors, when someone comes to you to get help, do you look at key areas? Do you break that down to 3 key areas or 7 key areas or
so normally we get them to do the audit, which will give us like a good visual representation of where they are and see where the gaps are. But to talk to them, the main thing is like talk to them. Everyone's an individual, right? What's going on for them at this moment in their life that's actually got them to reach out. What are they struggling with? Because there will be a struggle somewhere, and it could be the expanding waistline, the belly fat, that kind of rid of it. It could be that their relationship's going into meltdown, and they're not showing up as the person they want to be. It could be they've got career aspirations, but they're just feeling that they're not got the energy, or something's not aligned right. So it's about just like digging through with the conversation, finding out what there is, and going, okay, well, this is what we can work on, and then going forward from there.
And why would they do it? Like, if we work with clients, we say, you do it because it helps you perform better financially. You work with us because you'll make more money, you'll grow faster, and you'll reduce the risk of failure. So why does someone, whether it's with you or it's going and seeking help and doing stuff themselves, or it's with someone else, like, why do they do it? What's the real underlying why? Is it to be happier? Is it to reduce stress? Is it a combination of those things?
I think it's a combination. I mean, I'd sum it up as like to perform better as a human being. We've all got the capability to do better as human beings, to optimize our performance, and that might look slightly different for every individual person. But there'll be some of those elements, like the wheel. There'll be different elements that that you're falling short on, or maybe not. Don't even realize you are. But when you bring awareness to it, you're like, well, actually, yeah, I can step up there. So it's about being willing to take responsibility for yourself and going, how can I actually show up as a better person in the world? I'd say that sums it up. And then from that becomes being happier, healthier, less stressed, better job performance, better relationships, all the rest of it.
Yeah, I'd love to make a link with you actually, because in our model, we say money, freedom, impact, but actually in order to optimize money, freedom and impact, you need to first look at you as an owner, and then not just you, but the other individuals in your organization as humans. Are they, my kids always say that I say humans wrong, so, and they laugh at me, so maybe my pronunciation of humans is not correct. As humans,
good. Yeah.
Are you where you could be? Are you fulfilling your potential? Are you as happy as you could be? You just don't know, do you?
No.
You could be just going through your day to day, and you're like, yeah, this is normal. How I feel like shit some days is just, it is what it is. But actually, maybe it doesn't have to be. Where would you advise someone to get started? I guess maybe this is, I can't do that because everyone's individual, but if someone was going to take 2 or 3 key steps or look at 2 or 3 key areas to perform better, where would you say they look? Is it, sleep, diet, nutrition, hormones?
Yeah. I'd say number one is these aren't in any particular order, but these are the key things. I'd say look at the stresses in your life. Like what is causing you stress? And there'll be stuff that you can't remove, right? It might be like your career. So it's like, how can you choose to react differently to it? What's a different scenario you could create within that to actually try and reduce that stress? Then there'll be stresses you can reduce, like how much time you're spending on social media and you're looking at stuff that actually makes you angry. Clean your feed, get rid of it, curate it. Stress is bad for us, full stop. So we want to try and reduce the stressors. It negatively impacts our hormone levels. So not many people know this. When we produce cortisol, it's made from the same mother hormone, progesterone, that produces our sex hormone. So if we're making more cortisol, that's going to actually lower our testosterone for men and lower our estrogen for women, which is the last thing we want to be doing in midlife. So we've got to get a handle on stress. The other thing is, like, I shouldn't generalize someone, but when I walked around during Euros and I saw people in the pub, and a lot of people were very overweight and sinking the pints, and I'm just like, I think too many people take health for granted until it's taken away. And like you say, people will get the idea of, oh yeah, I'll work on my career, I'll work on my finances. We need to actively work at our health, right? Because actually, you know what? There's nothing more important. If you lose your health, everything else is going to fall away as well. So we need to be a bit proactive in looking after ourselves better. That doesn't mean that you have to become a gym bunny like Simon is, and be there for it could just be like getting out.
Track every single gram of protein, carbs, and fat.
Yeah, exactly. You don't have to do that. Just go for a walk 3 times a week. Start doing some resistance training. Clean up your diet. Start eliminating sugars and processed foods from your diet. If you just do these small things, I promise that after even a couple of weeks, you will start to feel a difference in your energy levels, and then you'll get more output. So I think that's that thing. Like, really look after your physical self, reduce your stressors, and then do look what you can do psychologically, because people again underestimate the impact of the hormone changes at midlife that have on our psychology, right? We become more anxious, we become more fear-based, we can be less focused. So knowing that, what can we do to turn that around? It comes back to things like being grateful now, setting goals that aren't work-related, things that bring us joy, what give us that dopamine hit.
I really noticed that actually. I almost wanted to, I forced myself to not interrupt you, because I was thinking the other day, like, why am I so fearful now? 10 years ago, I used to make, 20 grand a month in the business. I had a Range Rover on lease, Porsche on lease, big house, probably spending way more than I was actually earning. And if my wife would ask me, like, how are we doing financially? Yeah, we're fine. We've got loads of money. Don't worry about it. Now, the difference between my outgoings and what I earn is significant. Yet the fear over can I pay my bills is massive compared to it was non-existent 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, what the F is going on? And now you're saying it's related to me coming into this sort of age bracket.
Well, I believe
What
so.
do I
I
do?
think that there's a couple of things going on, right? So I always say this: when we're young, we play to win, right? When we get older, we play not to lose, and there's a big difference. We're playing a defensive setup. And I think that's because psychologically, we feel that we've acquired all these things, and then there's a fear of losing them. Whereas when we're young, we haven't got them yet, so it's just like there's everything to play for. Whereas when we're older, we start to think more about what we can lose, but we often overlook the opportunity cost, right? We can start to, this is what I say to people all the time, the opportunity cost of not taking action to do something you want to do because you're afraid it might impact something else is probably going to be bigger down the line. So I'd say it's a natural thing to have, but try and rationalize it. Here's the thing: as human beings, we hate uncertainty. It's our, as a state we like. So what we taught people to do through the COVID, and what we still coach people to do is, like, if you're feeling uncertain in life, if you're feeling that fear, control the controllables. So what can you do? You can set your schedule for the day. You can set your diary. There's things you can control. The more your subconscious feels that you're in control of a situation, the more restful it's going to be. It's often when one or more aspects are starting to spiral out of control, the subconscious will start, the voice in your head will start up about, oh, but what if, what if, what if? And that negative Nelly voice is a catastrophizing voice, because again, that's the evolutionary survival mechanism. As human beings, we're hardwired to look for danger and to imagine the worst outcome. That's what's kept us alive as a species. And that is great if we're out on the savannah trying to survive amongst wild beasts. But actually, it's not that helpful in modern life, right? It's not that helpful. If you're constantly in this like fear arousal state, looking for the threat, it's not great for your personal growth and actually hitting your goals.
And I guess just to wrap that up, I mean, I know the answer to this. Talking that through with someone, like I talk to my business partner, or I talk to a therapist, or I'll talk to my group in my group environment with the other accountants in the group coaching environment, because that's all Chatham House rules, which means you can say whatever. It could be about feelings, doesn't have to be about business. And that helps me feel so much better. So if you're listening to this and you're not talking to anyone, one of the main benefits I'd imagine in investing in some of the programs that you've got, or the longer term membership, is the ability to come on and say, I'm feeling like this, and have others who've been through it, or you guys, to guide them into to potential solutions.
Exactly. I think we can feel very alone with things like this, right? Like you say, it's great you've got that group with the Chatham House rules, because I think we can almost be afraid to be seen as vulnerable, to open up. But actually, vulnerability is a form of strength. And the more we can share things like this, the more it brings compassion, not only to what's going on for us, but for other people. Other people are like, oh, wow, I'm going through something similar as well. Like, I thought I was on my own with it. Actually, you're not alone with it. So yeah, being in a community where you can feel supported and talk about these things is so important. And that's what clients get from working with us.
Mate, it's been honestly an absolute pleasure. I've got so much from it. It's been brilliant. I'm so grateful that you came on. Is there anything that you would like to have covered that we haven't spoken about?
I don't think so, Simon. It's been really, really fantastic speaking to you. I've really, really enjoyed it. I've covered a lot of stuff there, and it's been, great. I hope the listeners find it useful, and just thank you for having me on.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Hopefully we can have you back and dig into, this is kind of an overview. Pick one particular topic and dig into that based on feedback. But yeah, like you said, I think from a personal perspective, for the listeners as individuals, but also as business owners, there are so many helpful tips, strategies, just knowledge and learning, and inspirational to learn about your journey and what you've been able to do with your business. So thanks for coming on. Thanks for listening, guys, and we'll see you in the next episode.